A timetable is a station's contract with time itself. 40 years I've driven the last train of the night, and I'll tell you what they don't put in the contract. Between 3:02 and 3:04, this station has a window that belongs to none of us. We just learned to keep platform 4 empty, and that night the points jammed.
Report number 21. A railway terminus, mid-sized, 6 platforms, open since 1964. Every platform is cleaned to the same standard and the same schedule, except platform 4, which is cleaned to a different clock. Ready by 3 a.m. every night. For a train that has never in 61 years appeared in any timetable. This is the platform cleaner's statement.
Nobody ever told me why 4 gets done first. You don't ask on nights. The brigade before mine did it that way, and the one before them. When I finally asked my foreman, he said 2 words and walked off. He said, "For arrival." I mopped that platform another year before I understood he wasn't being short with me. He told me everything he knew.
Night cleaning at a terminus is a geography of habit. 6 platforms, 1 crew, a route worn into muscle. The regulation says all platforms serviceable by 4 a.m., and the regulation, on paper, makes no exceptions. Practice does. Platform 4 is finished by 3. Always by 3, always first. Always, the older cleaners taught her without explaining, working from the far end toward the stairs, leaving the platform edge for last, the way you'd clean a room ahead of company. She checked the departures board early on, the way any sensible person would. Nothing arrives at that hour. The last train berths at 2:47. The first morning service isn't due until 5:10. Between them, the board stands empty. The station breathes its big hollow silence, and one platform, freshly washed, waits at the edge of the dark with its wet floor drying in the cold. For nothing, says the timetable. By 3, says everyone who has ever held her mop. Ow. The evidence arrived every morning, and for years she cleaned it away without letting herself do the arithmetic. Between 3:03 and 3:10, she narrowed the window gradually, the way you map a tide. Platform 4 acquires traffic. Footprints, damp, dozens of them, printed on stone she has just dried, all leading from the platform edge toward the stairs. From the edge. Only ever from. In years of mourning she has never once found a print walking the other way. Whoever arrives, arrives. Nobody boards. Among the prints, small litter of a tidy era. Punched ticket chads of a shape the railway retired generations ago, crisp as fresh paper. Once, by the second bench, a glove. A man's glove, wool, a half-century-old pattern, lying palm up the way gloves fall when they slip from a coat pocket. It was warm. She carried it to lost property, logged it, went home. In the morning the ledger showed her entry, and beside it, in the day clerk's hand, a closure, claimed by owner. The clerk could not remember the owner. The clerk could not remember writing the line. The line, the clerk agreed, was in her writing.
The prince never bothered me, if you can believe that. Feet going home is the most natural thing in the world. That's what a station is for. What bothered me was the direction. Years of mornings and not one print toward the edge. Everyone gets off. Nobody ever leaves on that train. Whatever it is, it only brings.
Curiosity in her trade is a thing you ration. She spent hers all at once. One night, the platform finished early. She stepped behind the third column, the wide one, by the old porter's alcove, and waited with her cart, out of sight of the platform edge. 3:02. The station's hum dropped away, the specific hush of a hall holding its breath. 3:03. No train came. No lights, no brakes, no mass of steel. The rails stayed empty and the dark stayed dark. And the platform filled. Footsteps, first, many, unhurried, the shuffling disembarkation rhythm every railway worker knows in their bones. Under the steps, voices. A crowd's murmur heard as if, through water or through years, words dissolving before they reached her. A porter's trolley, parked by the alcove since evening, rolled past her column at walking pace, squeaking on its bad wheel, steered by nothing. And then the smell went by, moving the way a person goes by. Creosote and coal smoke and wet wool coats, the smell of a railway that has not existed for half a century, walking home in no hurry at all. The crowd thinned toward the stairs. She tracked it by sound, minutes of it, patient as any night arrival, until only one set of footsteps remained. They did not go to the stairs. They came toward her column, unhurried, certain. They stopped by her measure, a meter from where she stood pressed to the stone, her hand tied on the cart handle, and then on the wet floor she had washed an hour before, directly in front of her bucket, a footprint appeared. Not stepped, appeared, the water darkening into the shape of a man's boot sole, unhurried, complete. Toe toward her. Someone stood facing her, the way you face a person you've caught working late, politely, at a respectful distance, careful of the wet floor. She did not move. She says she counted, because counting is what her hands do when they can't mop. 10 seconds, maybe 12. Then the print faded, lifted, the way a print lifts when the boot moves on, and the footsteps crossed to the stairs and climbed away into the station, and the hall let its breath out, and the night was ordinary again, except that she had been seen, considered, and she felt with absolute certainty, and no evidence at all, approved. She changed her routine by 5 minutes, and she wants it understood that nobody asked her to. Platform 4 is done by 2:55 now, and at 3 she stands by the third column with her cart, not hiding anymore, standing aside, yielding the platform, she says, the way you yield a corridor to people coming through with luggage. She leaves the yellow wet floor sign out, center platform, from habit and from courtesy. Every morning it stands folded, neatly, against the wall by the stairs. They read it, she notes. They mind it. And one morning last spring, hanging on the handle of her cart by the alcove, she found a glove. A man's glove, wool, half a century old in its pattern, warm as a handshake. The left one. The pair to the glove she had logged into lost property 3 years before. A set, completed. A thank you, she believes, 50 years in the delivering. Or 3 years, depending on whose clock you keep.
Everyone who hears this asks the same thing. Who arrives? Wrong. Question. They get off that train like anyone gets off a night train. Tired, carrying something, expected somewhere. Somebody's got the kettle on for every one of them, somewhere in this city. The right question, the one I mop over every single night, is this. Why is our station their terminus? What did we build here, that this is where the line ends?
The exhibit. The cleaning standard for the terminus, current edition, and stapled into it, carried forward through every revision since 1971, a single typewritten appendix that no revision has ever dared to drop. Platform number 4 is to be maintained in readiness for arrival at 0300 daily. Grounds. Station Master's Order. Number 1. Donna. Term. Indefinite. Order number 1 is the first document in the station's archive, signed the week the terminus opened by its first station master, a man whose portrait still hangs in the staff corridor, and whose order, 61 years later, is the only instruction in the building that has never once required enforcement. The night crews simply keep it, the way you keep an appointment, the way you keep faith. The report remains open, unresolved, a quiet one. Before the next report, a fragment. Fragment 09. The lost luggage register of the same terminus, a bound book, kept by hand for 40 years and still in use. One entry recurs across it, in the hands of 11 different clerks, under dates spanning 4 decades. Suitcase, brown, no tag. The entry is unremarkable. The bookkeeping is not. In every instance, all 40 years of them, the column marked released to owner carries a date earlier than the column marked received. The case is signed out before it is signed in. 11 clerks, 4 decades, one impossible sequence, repeated with the calm of routine. The register was audited twice, in different eras. Both audits returned the same finding, and the finding survives quotation. Ledger maintained without irregularity. This fragment remains unprocessed. This fragment remains unprocessed. Report number 22. Same terminus, main hall, where the departures board hangs. 2 boards, in fact. The digital wall the passengers read, and above it, dark since 2009, the old split-flap board the station never took down. Disconnected. Powered. Kept, the facilities file says, for reasons of cost. Every night at 3:02, the dead board turns over 1 line. This is the board operator's statement.
You know the sound a split-flap board makes? That shuffle, like a deck of cards the size of a wall. 1,000 little plastic leaves finding their letters. There is no mistaking it, and no imitating it. Now imagine hearing it at 3 in the morning, 1 line's worth, crisp as 1970, from a board with no power cable. The cable is in a box in my office. I keep it where I can see it.
The line is always the same. He has read it hundreds of nights, first with a torch from the hall floor, later from the gallery with binoculars. Finally, acceptance takes strange forms, with a thermos, from the bench with the best view. Arrival, ... Platform 4T. The departure station, a name. A real word, spellable, pronounceable, and absent. He has searched the National Station Registry, the historical gazetteers, the clotheslines archives, the military timetables that never reached the public, the freight codes. The name exists in none of them. No station, no siding, no halt, no junction. Nothing has ever carried it anywhere on the network, in any era he can reach. The journey time column shows a dash, the notation in the old convention, for through services whose origin lies off the printed page. And at 3:10, with the same dry shuffle, the board turns the line back to blank and holds it stark until the next night. The digital board below it, all this while, shows what the timetable shows. Nothing. He went looking for precedent, because precedent is what a dispatcher trusts. The station's photo archive gave it to him. Night photographs of the main hall exist from every decade of the building's life. Press shots, renovation surveys, a wedding party from the 80s that hired the hall after hours. In every night, photograph where the old board is legible, the line is there. Same platform. Same undiscoverable name. In the 70s prints, it hangs among live departures like one more train. After 2009, it hangs alone on the dead board, above the glowing new one. Nobody in any photograph is looking at it. And the operational journals, 61 years of them, the station's true memory, mention the name exactly once. Opening night, 1964, in the first dispatcher's hand, one entry between routine arrivals, special service accepted from ETH name. Passengers not to be counted. Arrival not to be announced. No explanation. No follow-up. The next line in the journal is a freight delay, recorded in the same steady hand, as if nothing had passed through the page at all.
Not to be counted. Not to be announced. 61 years, and those are still the only operating instructions this service has ever had. And here's what I understood, reading them at 4 in the morning. They're not secrecy. Count the passengers of a train like that. You're taking attendance of the dead. Announce it, well, we'll get to what happens when you announce it.
The escalation was an integration error, the kind of sentence that opens half the incident reports in the world. A software update, a rebooted controller, and at 3:02 the digital system did what integrations do. It synchronized. The dead board's line flooded the living network. Every screen in the terminus, the hall wall, the platform monitors, the little displays over the ticket windows, lit with the arrival, Platform 4. The name from nowhere, journey time a dash. And the public address system, dutiful as ever, began to announce it. The synthesized voice got as far as the train now arriving, while he crossed the control room in what he describes as the fastest 40 seconds of his career, killing zones one by one. And under the synthetic voice, as he silenced it, something else came through the speakers. Reading. A list. Station names. Spoken level and unhurried, one after another, names he half knew. names with dust on them. He grabbed a pen and caught 7 before the last zone died. And in the second of clean silence that followed, before the hall settled, the speakers said one more word. In a voice he knew from the archive reels, the induction recordings every dispatcher hears in training. The first dispatcher, 61 years retired from the living. The word was, thank you. The 7 names took him a week of archives, and every one of them landed. A village station closed when the branch line died in the 60s. A halt drowned under a reservoir when the dam went up. The platform is still down there, divers say, sign and all. A junction that served a town resettled to nowhere in particular, for reasons filed under progress. 7 names, 7 real places, 7 stops that no longer exist anywhere except in land registries and old men's stories. The train's route, he understood, sitting among the photocopies at 4 a.m., is not hidden. It is an itinerary of the discontinued. It calls at every platform this country has ever erased, gathering, station by station, whoever still stands waiting on them. And the departure point, the name his board announces nightly, the name absent from every registry. Not absent, he corrects the record with a dispatcher's precision. First, it is simply the first stop on the list, the terminus at the far end of the line, the one that was never in the registries, because it was never ours to build. His memo went up the next morning. Digital signage, scheduled maintenance window, 3 a.m. to 3:10 daily, dry as toast, approved before lunch, signed by a manager who did not ask a single question, in the tradition of managers signing things about Platform 4. The window has held ever since. The living boards sleep through the arrival, and the dead board keeps the record alone, the way it apparently prefers. And one detail from the night after the incident, which he includes, he says, because a report should be complete. At 3:02 the split flap shuffled as always, but the line it turned was new. For 10 seconds before flipping to the eternal arrival, the dead board read, delayed, hall equipment. Apologies for the inconvenience. Then the shuffle, and the usual line, right on time. The train, he notes, had not been delayed. The train was apologizing. For the disturbance. For the announcement. For the trouble its arrival had put the hall to. 61 years of service, and the courtesy of another century intact.
We announce trains so people can meet them or catch them. This is the one train you must never announce, and I finally worked out why. An announcement is an invitation. It says, this service is for you. Come to the platform. And that service is not for us. Nobody standing in our hall is meant to meet it. Nobody, God willing, is catching it tonight. You don't invite people to that platform. That platform is where you arrive.
The exhibit. The split flap board's technical passport, 1964, preserved with the German thoroughness of its manufacturer. The document lists every pre-printed line loaded onto the destination drums at the factory. Hundreds of them. The standard network of the day, each with its catalog position. Position 000, first on the drum, ahead of every real city and every real town, is the line. The arrival. Platform 4, priority. The name from the far end of the list. Manufactured into the machine before the machine ever reached the building. Per client specification, the passport notes, 1964. The client's name on the order is the station's founding authority. The specification itself, like Appendix B elsewhere in this archive's experience, does not survive. The board has never displayed position 00 by any command a human operator could give it. It has also never missed a night. The report remains open, unresolved. A quiet one. 2 reports remain. You have seen who arrives, and you have seen the route. What follows concerns the freight. The last 2 reports are about what the train carries, and what this station does to keep its side of a 61-year-old word. Report number 23. Filed by the left-luggage attendant, keeper of 400 coin lockers in the terminus underpass. Locker 44 has been listed as out of order since before his employment, before his predecessors, before the oldest maintenance record in the file. It takes no coin. It opens for no key. And every night around 3:15, it stands open with something inside. This is his statement.
400 lockers, and every one of them is arithmetic. Coin in, door shut, key out. Except 44. 44 doesn't take. 44 gives. It took me 2 years to say that sentence out loud, and another year to understand it's a job description. Mine, as it turns out.
The rhythm is fixed. Around 3:15, after the arrival, for those keeping this file's clock, his round takes him down the underpass, past the wall of gray doors, and door 44 stands ajar. Inside on the bare steel, one object. Never two. Always old, and always he developed an inspector's eye for this. Cared for. A pair of spectacles, folded, in a case worn soft at the corners. A letter, sealed, addressed in copperplate, carrying no stamp. A child's shoe, polished, laces tucked. A brass whistle on a plated cord. The kind conductors carried when conducting was a uniformed art. He logged the first fines into lost property, by the book. They never survived the ledger longer than a day, claimed the day column would say. In handwriting the day, clerks recognized as their own, and could not remember writing. After a dozen rounds of that, he stopped logging and started doing what the locker, he came to believe, had been waiting for someone to do. He started delivering. Delivering meant, at first, only paying attention. He kept a private inventory, object, date, description, and let the city do the rest, and the city obliged. The spectacles he'd left on the underpass bench, meaning to deal with them later, were gone by morning. A week after, he watched an old man at the suburban ticket windows adjust a pair exactly like them and tell the cashier, delighted, that he'd found them on a bench, if you please, and they were his prescription to the letter. His very prescription. Imagine. The unstamped letter he'd propped by the postbox vanished overnight. 2 months later, the regional paper ran one of its human interest fillers. A letter posted half a century ago finds its addressee's daughter at last. Postmark illegible, the paper said. Delivered by hand, the daughter thought, though no one rang the bell. Item by item, his inventory resolved the same way, outward, into the city, each object arcing towards some person shaped exactly like its absence. Locker 44, he wrote in the margin of his own list, the night he accepted it, is not storage. It is issue. The train brings what people lost. Or what has been looking for them.
Storage is easy. Things wait, people come. This is the opposite. The things arrive already knowing where they're going, and the people never come, because the people don't know they're expected. Somebody has to close that distance. I checked my contract once, looking for the clause. It's not in there. It's older than the contract.
Then came the night the locker addressed him personally. The object on the steel was a compass. Brass, heavy, lid, worn smooth by a thumb. He knew it before he touched it, from photographs and from one story his mother told rarely and always the same way. Her father's compass, gone with her father. Somewhere in the white silence of the north, decades before her son was born. The engraving inside the lid matched the photograph stroke for stroke. He stood in the underpass holding it for a long time, and in standing, he saw what the shadow of the door had hidden. A second object, further back on the shelf. New. What? Wrong for the locker in every way. Glossy. Trivial. Current dature. A registered receipt from the station Buffett. He read it without picking it up. Today's date. His shift. His order, tea, 2 rolls, the same as every night, printed at a timestamp 3 hours from now. An item, he understood with a coldness that took days to thaw, that he had not lost yet. The locker was holding inventory in both directions. He took the compass. He did not touch the receipt. He closed door 44 with the care you'd use on a sleeping child's room, and finished his round and did not buy tea that night, or rolls, and has changed his order permanently since a small, superstitious, entirely serious act of editing the manifest. The receipt was gone by morning, which by Locker 44's arithmetic meant it had been issued, and at noon, the buffet cashier flagged him down and pressed coins into his hand. "Your change," she said. "From yesterday. You rushed off without it." He had not bought anything the day before. He took the change, Because his years in that underpass have taught him the etiquette of impossible transactions. You accept, you say thank you, you settle it later on whatever ledger is keeping score. And the compass he carried, that weekend, to his mother. He put it in her hands without a story, to see what her hands would do. They knew it at once. She sat down. And when she could speak, she gave him the sentence he has not slept properly past since, a sentence from her father's last letter, written from the north, quoted in the family for 60 years as grief and never once, until now, as logistics. If I don't come back, I will send what I can, with whoever I can.
With whoever I can. My grandfather wrote that to my grandmother, and everyone read it as a man saying goodbye. Nobody read it as a man who'd looked at the timetable. I used to think the train brings passengers. Now I think it brings unfinished business. It's a delivery service for everything death interrupted. And I hold the issue desk. So, here's the question I don't ask out loud down there at night. What's already on that train with my name on the docket? And what did I lose that I haven't missed yet?
The exhibits. A Technical Inspection Act, 12 years old, from the last time anyone tried to repair Locker 44. The panel was opened, the mechanism examined, and the findings entered by an engineer whose handwriting deteriorates visibly down the page. Unit is connected neither to the electrical bus nor to the locking network. No power. No control line. Constructively incapable of opening. The recommendation, replace the unit, is crossed out. Beneath it, a countermanding note in a second hand. Unit to remain in place and in registry as out of order, not subject to repair, per requirement of the lessee of station property. The lease itself is on file. The lessee is named nowhere in it. The signature block identifies the counterparty only as bearer of agreement number 1. Agreement number 1. The recurring ghost of this archive is not attached. The rent, the accounts confirm, has never once been billed. Or, depending on how you read, Locker 44 has never once been missed. The report remains open, unresolved, a quiet one. One more fragment before the final report. Fragment 10.u. A watchman's route sheet from the depot of a neighboring station, 1989. The night round. 12 checkpoints, 12 stamps, every signature in place, the shift handed over on time. The arithmetic is the problem. The stamps carry times, and between checkpoint 7 and checkpoint 8, a stretch of 200 meters, 12 minutes at regulation pace, the watchman's clocks record an interval of 9 hours. 9 hours inside a shift that, by the depot gate log, lasted its ordinary 8. Asked to explain, the watchman submitted a statement of one sentence, preserved in his personnel file and never elaborated upon for the remaining 11 years of his service. The sentence reads, "I let a train pass." This fragment remains unprocessed. This fragment remains unprocessed. The final report, and the voice that opened this file. The driver of the last train of the night, the 247, berthed on platform 1 until morning. For 40 years he has kept an instruction that exists on no paper, passed from mentor to mentor in the depot, 4 words long. After berthing, stay in the cab until 3:15. And never watch platform 4. This is his statement, and it concerns the night the points jammed.
40 years I kept those 4 words the way you keep a red signal. My mentor kept them 40 years before me and his before him. Nobody ever told us what happens if you break them. Railway men don't need the what. The instruction being old, that's the what.
The 247 came in on time that night, like every night, and then the night stopped being like every night. The points at the throat of the station jammed mid-route, a signal failure, a shunting engine already moving, and the kind of 30-second cascade that operations men spend careers prevent. His empty train was pushed, procedurally correctly, by the book that didn't know what it was doing, off platform 1, through the crossover, and onto the only clear road in the station. Platform 4T. The clock in his cab read 3001. He keyed the radio to demand a route out, and dispatch did not answer with procedure. Dispatch answered. After a silence he describes as the control room choosing its words, with 2 words in an old voice he did not recognize and has not heard since on any channel. Kill your lights. He is a 40-year man. He killed the headlamp, the markers, the cab light, the instrument glow, everything that made his train a presence, and sat in the dark on the platform he had spent a working lifetime not watching, 90 seconds before the arrival. What happened at 3:03 he reports in the flat voice of a man describing gauge readings, because it is the only voice that will carry it. Light passed through him. Not headlights, through. A soft, wide illumination that entered the cab from behind, crossed it, and exited through his windscreen without stopping at any of the surfaces light stops at, as if for one long moment his train had been excused from being an obstacle. The smell arrived with it. Creosote, coal smoke, wet wool, filling a sealed cab with the air of a railway half a century gone. Sound rose around the train, not outside it. The deep rolling passage of stock on jointed rail, the note every driver knows in his spine. And his own train, his dead, braked, empty 8 cars, began to rock. Gently. Side to side, in the rhythm of stock meeting stock, the way a standing train rocks when an express takes the parallel road at speed. There is no parallel road at platform 4. There is a wall. His train rocked for what the recorder would later refuse to remember, and settled. And then, at the level of a man standing on the ballast outside, someone knocked on his cab window. Twice. Knuckles. Polite, the knock of a railwayman at a colleague's door, not a demand. He did not turn his head. 40 years of 4 words held his neck still, and he watched the black windscreen and his own faint reflection in it. And from outside the glass, close enough that the cold of it reached him, a voice spoke. Old, level, carrying his specific patience of a man who has worked nights his whole life and his whole death. The path is occupied, driver, the voice said. But you're a guest. We'll see you through. And his train, pantograph down, brakes set, batteries isolated, a 400-ton dead weight, moved. Smoothly. Off platform 4, through the crossover, over points that no lever and no motor had thrown, and onto platform 1, where it stopped at the berthing mark to the centimeter, the way it stops when he is at his best. The clock read 3:07. The station was silent. The smell of coal smoke took an hour to leave the cab, and he sat with it, he says, the way you sit with a colleague after a hard shift. Neither of you needs to talk. The morning gave him the paperwork, and the paperwork gave this file its exhibits. The shunting dispatcher, a serious man near retirement, swore in writing that no movement order was issued, and no engine touched the 8 cars, and requested in the same memo transfer to day shifts. The train's event recorder for the interval 3:01 to 3:07 holds a dash. No power, no data. A dead train, says the tape. The odometer, mechanical, incorruptible, disagrees by 400 meters, the exact distance from platform 4 to the berthing mark on 1. And on the inside of his windscreen, the inside of a locked cab, on a warm night that put no frost on any glass in the depot, Morning found one word, written by a fingertip in a thin bloom of rhyme that had no business existing, in the careful block letters of somebody's grandfather. The word was even.
40 years I thought the 4 words protected us from them. Stay in the cab. Don't watch. That night I understood. The words protect the agreement. They don't want to be seen, because if you see them, you'd have to greet them. And if you greet them, you get acquainted. And if you get acquainted, one day you'll be seeing someone off. It's a small station. Everyone knows everyone. Some things you keep formal for everybody's sake. But we're even now, me and that train. It says so on my own glass. Even.
The last exhibit, and the file closes. Station Master's Order Number 1, the founding document of this terminus. Signed the week it opened, 1964. 1 paragraph typewritten, never amended and never explained. Track 4 is to be considered occupied daily between 0300 and 0310. The interval is not to appear in any working timetable. Grounds. Obligations assumed at construction. Appendix. Agreement number 1. The appendix is not attached. It is not in the railway archive, the municipal archive, or the ministries. The interested parties, it appears, have never needed copies. 4 reports. 1 terminus. A platform washed for company. A board that keeps one line ready. A locker that issues what death interrupted. And a driver seen through, politely, by whatever holds the deed to 10 minutes of every night. This station has kept its word for 61 years, and something has kept the station. The books, as always in this archive, balance. All 4 reports remain open, unresolved, and quiet ones. The whole file, quiet ones. Good night from the quiet report. Mind the gap on platform 4.